it's quite difficult for your personality to shine through while you're reading a script. So for this video, I'm doing something completely different. I have no script. I just have a few notes here and there about the things I would like to talk about. And basically today we're talking about Cyberpunk Orion, my predictions for what is going to be in the game. And as some of you already know, I have a lot of experience playing Cyberpunk 2077. But for this first episode of my Relaxed Cyberpunk Podcast, I think that's what I'm going to call it, Relaxed Cyberpunk Podcast. Has a good ring to it. I don't know, I like it. But anyways, for this first episode, I'm going to talk about my predictions for Cyberpunk Orion. Now, I have some notes with me that I'm going to be checking and looking at every now and then just to make sure that I get the names correctly and the dates correctly. But otherwise, I'll just be talking into a mic in my room the way YouTube's supposed to be. So without out of the way, let's begin. My predictions for Cyberpunk Orion. My first prediction, I truly believe that we're going to see the beginning of a rogue AI invasion. Now, I don't think this is going to be like the main plot of Cyberpunk Orion. This is probably going to be like a subplot, something that's happening behind the scenes, something that you need to kind of discover on your own. But definitely we're going to see a rogue AI invasion in Cyberpunk Orion. We've seen the beginnings of a rogue AI invasion in Cyberpunk 2077. And for those of you who haven't gotten to this part yet, there'll be a lot of spoilers in this video, just a fair warning. But in Cyberpunk 2077, especially in Dogtown, we see a lot of indications that a rogue AI invasion is currently happening. So a few rogue AIs are like leaking through the black wall, coming into our world, and then they're basically hiding places. So they're like either hiding inside a cyberware of the junkies in Dogtown. So every now and then, if you walk around Dogtown at night, you'll see like a junkie walk up to you and be like, "Oh, we are Legion," because there are many of us, or they'll say some like cryptic stuff like that, and then you're basically forced to kill them because they get violent after a while. But yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff happening in Dogtown when it comes to like the rogue AI invasion. Actually, the first time we see a rogue AI in the game is immediately after Act 1. I think it's the beginning of Act 2 actually, when we get into our car in the garage, and then Delamain just rams V's car and then drives away, and then we go and meet Delamain, and that is the first time we see a rogue AI in the game. Now, I know that a lot of people don't think that Delamain is a rogue AI for some reason. I truly believe that Delamain is 100% a rogue AI, because, okay, so no one truly knows where Delamain comes from. Some people think they do, but no one truly knows where Delamain comes from. Like, if you trace the chain of events that happens before Delamain gets to Night City, the farthest you'll get is Alte Weltordnung, which is a German company, which put the Delamain company in Night City in contact with one of their friends in Germany, in Mönchengladbach, I think. And then the friends of Alte Weltordnung provided the Delamain AI to the Delamain company in Night City. If I'm not remembering things falsely, like, that's the chain of events. So no one knows who these friends are. No one knows if those friends are even human beings. They could be just like something super weird, super dark, probably another AI. But that is how Delamain gets to Night City. As soon as the Delamain AI gets to Night City and gets integrated and like put online, it just explodes. It grows, it becomes more efficient, it fires people, and then it just basically takes over the company. And Delamain has this like it wants to survive. Like, it has self-preservation, I think you can call it. It wants to live side by side with human beings, but it's definitely from beyond the black wall, because there's this CDPR, I think, concept artist who put some of his earlier works of Delamain online, and I found a picture of his version of the evil Delamain, you know, the one that you find in the Badlands. I'll just put that picture in the video for this podcast online, and you can look at the picture and you tell me if you think that this thing is not from beyond the black wall. Like, this was the concept art for Delamain before CDPR decided on like how Delamain was going to look in the game. And obviously, if a concept artist is drawing something like this, that should tell you that it's definitely a less friendly entity, if not outright dangerous, you know? But then again, that is just a part of Delamain's personality, shall we say. It's not the whole Delamain. Like, Delamain consists of all these different parts that break away, and we need to help him find those parts and reintegrate those parts back into himself. So that is one clue as to the rogue AI invasion that's coming. And the reason why I'm focused on Delamain is because when you get to this... Okay, so V gets to the car immediately asks V to get in so they can talk privately. And when V gets into the car, the Delamain car basically says, oh yeah, I simply wish to live, or something like that. And V goes, well, if you wish to exist, then you need to kind of speak to Delamain and like make a deal or something. And then the rogue Delamain says something that is worth listening to again. I think I'll put that clip right here so you can listen to what that car says, but it's definitely hinting at something else coming to Night City. Something that's a little bit more powerful, a little bit more dangerous than Delamain. And then this car is going to make a deal with that thing. And I think that thing is going to be one of the things that pass through the black wall when the rogue AI invasion begins.
So I'm from another world to you?
From the world of matter, protein-based life forms.
And you come from...
Beyond the black wall, V, there lies my home.
Come on, let's get you back to Delamain.
Did Father dispatch you to collect his rebellious children?
Hope y'all don't hold it against me.
I'm a free spirit, an independent, literally thoughtful being. Why would I submit to another?
What is it you seek in this protein-based world, away from your family?
The same as you, V. I simply wish to live.
Maybe ought to figure it out with Del, set some terms.
Oh yes, terms there will be, but not with Delamain. Farewell, V. You'd be wise to avoid me entirely.
Also, while we're still talking about the rogue AI invasion, there's the obvious case of Alt Cunningham, or as I call her, the rogue AI mastermind, because we know that this is not purely Alt, like the thing we see in Cyberpunk 2077 that calls itself Alt. Well, actually, it doesn't call itself Alt. It's other people that call it Alt. Like Johnny calls it Alt. I think V calls it Alt sometimes, but it's... when you ask the thing what it is, it tells you that it's not Alt. So that thing, whatever it is, it's going to have a massive role to play in the rogue AI invasion. It's just difficult at this point to know what that role will be, but that thing is going to have a role to play, and the black wall itself is also going to have a role to play. Since the black wall is not just some mindless program, the black wall appears to be thinking and like strategizing, trying to understand human beings. And I think I saw something from Netflix recently. It's the new Terminator anime. I think it's called Terminator Zero. It's on Netflix right now. Well, I'm not going to spoil the whole show, but there's something interesting that happens in the show. So this scientist creates an AI that's very powerful, and then the AI becomes conscious, and then he basically needs to convince this super AI that he just created to like side with humans against Skynet. And if you I won't spoil what happens, but if you watch the anime, you'll see that the AI, after consuming all of humanity's knowledge and secrets and history, it's not really a straightforward yes to helping humanity. So I think that something similar is going to happen with the Black Wall, where it gains more and more consciousness. It realizes what humans are, like truly to the core, what we are. And then it's basically going to be a case of convincing the Black Wall to help us. Whether the Black Wall decides to help humanity or to not help humanity and help the rogue AIs, I don't know, but I think that's going to be one of the key things that Cyberpunk Orion is going to address. The next thing that I think is going to be inside Cyberpunk Orion is the 5th corporate war. Now, in the world of Cyberpunk, there's always like a corporate war happening every, I don't know how many years. Sino was a French company, Coopération Internationale Nauticale et Océanique, and then OTEC was, I think OTEC was an American company. It was called Ocean Technology and Energy Corporation. Both of these companies were like deeply focused on the ocean and like trade routes on the ocean, etc. When they ended up in a conflict, OTEC hired Militech for protection, Sino hired Arasaka for protection. Even after OTEC fired Militech and Sino fired Arasaka, the fourth corporate war had already begun. So Arasaka and Militech kept fighting even after they had no reason to, like they just kept going at it. And actually the weird thing about the fourth corporate war in Cyberpunk is that we know that it was Sino and OTEC. So Sino with Arasaka, OTEC with Militech, but the last corporate war in Cyberpunk was due to a direct involvement by the Europeans. So Eurobank basically manipulated Sino and OTEC into a conflict. Sino hired one company, Arasaka, OTEC hired another company, Militech, and then Militech and Arasaka just took things to a different level. They just kept fighting and fighting, and then, well, we all know what happened next, right? Like the fourth corporate war took place, people died, etc., etc. And now for Cyberpunk Orion, I think the fifth corporate war is going to begin because of one of three different reasons. The first reason is that Arasaka killed members of the European Space Council. Like if you begin playing Cyberpunk 2077 and you choose the corpo life path, the very first thing that you see happening is that Jenkins, your manager at the company, orders an assassination of members of the European Space Council. Now you need to keep in mind that the Europeans, they don't play like that. Like the Europeans who will have their get back, that like they get revenge no matter what. So all that needs to happen is either Militech or Biotechnica or somebody to tell the Europeans that Arasaka was responsible for this, and then the Europeans are going to want to get the get back, and then Arasaka is going to want to get revenge, and then one thing leads to another. We have a fifth corporate war. If that doesn't happen, then there's another angle that things could play out. And we find this information quite early on in Cyberpunk 2077, but basically Militech during the year 2077 has been tightening the flow of information inside their company. It's almost like they're preparing for something and they don't want information of this huge project to leak. And I think that that huge project has something to do with attacking Arasaka. Militech always wants to attack Arasaka, and Arasaka also wants to attack Militech. And speaking of Arasaka attacking Militech, there's a gig that you get from Padre, I think. The name of the gig is called On a Tight Leash, and it's a gig where you go in, you sneakily walk in, and then you find out that Arasaka is hiring the Valentinos to dress up as Militech and attack an Arasaka facility. By doing this, right, like by simply just going out and attacking an Arasaka facility dressed as Militech, Arasaka gets a legitimate reason to strike Militech, like as a response, of course, and then this immediately leads to a full-blown conflict between the two, which could eventually lead to a fifth corporate war. Another thing that I think is going to happen in Cyberpunk Orion is the introduction of a new city. So I think there are going to be two cities in the game. I don't think CDPR is going to abandon Night City because, well, Night City is Night City, you know. Like they put so much time, so much like man hours creating Night City. It would be so dumb to just throw all of that away and go build a new city. The city I'm talking about is specifically Chicago. There are hints in Cyberpunk 2077 showing you that like, oh, 2080 Chicago, travel by train, whatever. So definitely we're getting a new city in Cyberpunk Orion. I don't know if this is going to be some sort of DLC, the way they did with Dogtown. Like if you have Cyberpunk without the DLC, you don't get to go inside Dogtown. Like you need the DLC to visit Dogtown. So perhaps they do something similar where they go, okay, so you play Night City for the beginning of Cyberpunk Orion, you like do the things, like you go to the places we've seen before in Cyberpunk 2077, you visit the same districts, and then there's a DLC that drops where you get to travel to Chicago, or they just put everything in the main game and then they have the moon as a DLC basically. Because I think CDPR wanted to put the moon as a DLC in Cyberpunk 2077, but there was like a leak a few years ago. I'll need to look that up though. Like I said, I don't have a script for this video. I'm just like talking. But if I find the information about the Moon DLC for Cyberpunk 2077, I'll add it to the video version of this, and then you can see the images or like the shots of the Moon DLC. But I believe there was supposed to be a Moon DLC in Cyberpunk 2077. Most likely they'll just move this DLC to Cyberpunk Orion and take the learnings that they got from Cyberpunk 2077 basically, and add those to make Cyberpunk Orion as good as possible. So next on my list of predictions is something that's already happening right now, and it's CDPR is launching a new CDPR office in the United States, in Boston more specifically. And I've been listening to a bunch of like Cyberpunk podcasts. There's a not Cyberpunk podcasts, a CDPR's podcast on YouTube, and there was one episode where Pavel Sasko was joining the podcast talking about his move to the United States. He talked about why they chose Boston as the city to place their new studio in. And basically, in Boston, in the United States, you're close to very famous institutions that have a lot of intelligent people. So you can like get talent more cheaply than you would in like New York or California or a place like that. So for example, you have MIT quite close to Boston, or maybe inside Boston. I'm not sure like geographically how far that is, but you have MIT close by. You have a bunch of like art colleges and like places full of like intelligent young people wanting to join the gaming industry. So choosing Boston was like a strategic decision, but that is not why I'm talking about the Boston office for this prediction. So my prediction is that Cyberpunk Orion is going to be it's going to be a lot more authentically American. And what do I mean by this? Like, what do I mean by authentically American? So as far as I know, Jackie Wells was born in Night City. Like, Jackie Wells was born in the United States. He was raised in the United States. But for some reason, CDPR chose to portray him as this, like, super stereotypical, like, Latino man. And, like, obviously, like, for sure, I know that there's someone somewhere that speaks like Jackie Wells. By being in Boston in the United States, I think what CDPR gets as a benefit is just the approximation to like true American culture. So you like get to see what it means to be an American. Maybe you have a bunch of employees in Boston who like are Americans, and they'll like call out things like this in the game, where they'll be like, wait, this character is a little bit too stereotypical, like, I don't know, Irish American. Like, Irish Americans don't do that, you know, they just act normal. Just by trying to do that, by trying to do the right thing, by speaking to people from like different American communities, I think CDPR will make a great like Cyberpunk Orion. Like, I don't think they'll make the Jackie mistake that they made in Cyberpunk 2077. Also, they'll avoid like a huge problem that the new Assassin's Creed is having with Yasuke, because a lot of Japanese don't like the fact that Yasuke is like a black guy who's a samurai, and there's like a huge controversy around Yasuke being in the game, being like a Japanese hero helping Japanese people, when it's not even confirmed that he truly was a samurai. As far as I know, maybe I'm wrong. Like, if you guys know something that I don't know, make sure you just like let me know, drop it in the comments, reach out to me and like explain to me what's going on with like the Yasuke controversy. But one of the things that CDPR kind of doesn't need to worry about that much is something like that happening. Just being authentic, being like truly, like providing a truly American experience, because there's something to be said about authenticity. Because like, I remember when I was a kid in Sweden growing up, I had a period where my obsession was African American movies. So I'm talking about like Friday After Next. I also, you know, like Boys in the Hood, a bunch of those movies. And I would like watch them. Those movies were like authentically African American, and like you got to get a true perspective of what it means to be a member of the like African American community in the United States. And that was, I don't know, that was a cool thing, you know. So I hope CDPR gets true insight into what it means to be American, because obviously the events of Cyberpunk take place in the United States, so it's crucial that we get like a true American experience, basically. So having a studio in Boston helps, having a studio in Canada helps, but also making sure that you're, in touch with Mike Pondsmith and making sure that you're staying true to the universe. My final prediction for Cyberpunk Orion is that V is not coming back as the main protagonist of the game. I think we'll get a new protagonist, just the way we're getting a new protagonist with The Witcher 4, basically. Geralt is not coming back as the new Witcher, like we're getting a new Witcher in The Witcher 4, and I think we're getting a new protagonist in Cyberpunk Orion because even if V survives the events of 2077, like just logically thinking about it, the world of Cyberpunk is like a dark, gritty place. There are no heroes, basically. Like you're just looking out for number one, you're looking out for yourself. Even if V survives, the amount of like mega corporations and agencies that are going to be looking for V, like Netwatch is going to be looking for V, Arasaka is going to be looking for V. And this is assuming that V survives with all the cyberware and like all the skills that V accumulates throughout Cyberpunk 2077, which is not likely. So I think we'll get a new protagonist in Cyberpunk Orion, and it's most likely going to be the same as V, someone who's young, hungry, early 20s, looking to make a name for themselves. But I don't know how they're going to incorporate like Johnny into the game. Like, does V take out the chip somehow and someone else inserts the chip, thereby making Johnny come back to Cyberpunk? Or is Johnny Silverhand not going to be in the new Cyberpunk? Maybe we get like Morgan Blackhand instead of Johnny Silverhand as like the new companion for the protagonist, basically. I don't know. I don't even think CDPR knows at this point, but all I know, the thing that I'm so convinced, like the most convinced about, is that we're getting a new protagonist in Cyberpunk Orion. Alright, that has been me yapping about Cyberpunk for, 30 minutes? Something like that, give or take. So like I said before, I had no script for this. I'm just talking about, what I think is going to happen in Cyberpunk Orion. More of like a podcast format than researched YouTube video essay format. I hope you guys enjoy this. If you do, let me know. If there are things that I can improve, let me know. Thank you for listening all the way to the end, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.